A warm welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television, your one-stop shop for everything aviation. I'm Bukola Joe Oketsumbi. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're reaching you from the grounds of the Muritala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. This airport is West Africa's biggest transit and destination airport. Pre the pandemic, over 10 million passengers travel through every year. This volume of passengers makes the airport vulnerable to what the Nigerian Immigration Service describes as migrant smuggling. A situation the service seeks to curb, especially at this time where the colloquial word japa, which means relocation, is popular in Nigeria. On the show, we bring you real-life stories of smuggled migrants who have returned to Nigeria and why it is necessary to travel legally. Plus, stories from the domestic scene as airlines gear up for the peak travel period. We take up with our background report on migrant smuggling. Voluntary returnees exiting the aircraft in Lagos, many of them victims of migrant smuggling or human trafficking. Top on the list of countries are Libya, Oman and Egypt. Most of those who leave Nigeria regularly usually take the land borders, but the Muritala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos is also a primary exit point for others. The Nigerian Immigration Service Command here at the airport is concerned about migrant smuggling and its implications.
Nigeria is losing a lot of our youth, a future, especially females in their prime, to the twin evils of smuggling of migrants, trafficking in persons, and other criminalities and vulnerabilities associated with irregular migration. These vulnerable Nigerians are repeatedly lured into a maze of avoidable hardship and risk. A more worrisome aspect of this agonizing reality is that this ugly trend seems to show no sign of slowing down. As sets of youths are returning to the country, either voluntarily or involuntarily, new sets are desperately embarking on the journey into the unknown.
Statistics also paint the not-too-good picture.
The total number of deportation is 2,057. This number may look like statistics for some of us, but this number represents family investments that have gone down the line. It's a war of narratives. Some of these traffickers will tell you, don't worry, UAE, Cairo, Qatar, Bahrain, these are the areas. I have power to take you to those places. In fact, before you go to Europe, you stop in Qatar or Lebanon. Then, of course, we know that the top destination is Canada, USA, and Europe. They will tell you in those places you work for like 1 year or 2 years. From there, you move. They will say it with so much assurance. But lo and behold, we see people being deported from all of these places. But these narratives will never be told to the potential victims, and we will receive them.
Beyond the statistics, there are young men and women telling sad tales of their exploits.
We already sold to somebody from Libya has already paid them. Apart from the fact that even my girlfriend that we're going together gave him money to like help us, because she told me that once we get to Tripoli, we can control money from home to cross the Mediterranean. But everything the man told us, in fact, she was also shocked because both of us were actually sold into trafficking. We're in Libya for like 2.5 years. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience. And I got thrown into detention as well when I was trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to get to Europe. And I was in prison for 1 month, where IOM came and rescued me and brought me back home.
Immigration stopped me. I was crying that day. My mother was pleading that, please, this is my only child that wants to help us. And that's the only child. But they said no, that we are not going. But later they seized our passport. Later, after 2 weeks, when they say I should come for my passport, that's when I saw those ladies that they brought, that they are saying their story. I was like, thank God. I was happy that, I thought those immigration did bad for me, Daddy, but I don't know that it's help that they did to me. I used this opportunity to Nigerian immigration for the great opportunity that they gave to me.
And there is also a word for parents and guardians.
Perpetrators of this evil, They will be the one to tell their spouses, their husbands, daddy this, daddy that. The daughter of this person has traveled abroad. There is no free lunch in Sierra Leone, in Freetown. When you look at the story of Joseph in the land of Egypt, you will know that poverty had been. So when people are saying it's poverty, poverty, and you say that to your children, you allow them to travel to an unknown destination. When some of them will not come back, at the end of the day, your old age, you will suffer. They will not suffer. They will understand what we are talking about. But when we parents condemn Nigeria, and I call them to Jackpot, you cannot blame the children. Our children must not be killed abroad because we have problems here. This is their country. This is where their glory resides. Don't push them out anymore. Any parent who encourages smuggling of migrants is a kidnapper.
Migrant smuggling affects almost every country in the world. It undermines the integrity of countries and communities and costs thousands of people their lives every year. The United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime and the protocols thereto assist states in their efforts to implement the protocol against the smuggling of migrants either by land, sea, or air. On our interview segment, the Assistant Controller General in charge of Nigerian Immigration Service Zone A in Ikeja, Lagos, Mr. Olakunle Oshisonya, is our guest. He throws more light on the efforts of the service in curbing this monster.
Leaving the country in which manner? Now, for those who live in the country in the appropriate manner, with visas, with opportunities for employment, for schooling, there is not much of a problem. Now, it is where they cannot get visas or the appropriate, authorities to travel. Then there are some people who take advantage of that and offer them alternatives. So the problem with those alternatives is that the end results are usually terrible. That is how people become victims of trafficking, or they become objects of smuggling of migrants. Therefore, it is imperative that we let our citizens understand that to travel requires the legitimate means. You travel with a visa, with valid travel documents, and through appropriate airports and ports of entry. Anything short of that exposes such persons to danger. Passing through the desert, we hear stories of our citizens becoming victims, passing through the Mediterranean Sea in their quest to get to Europe. A good percentage of them, not less than 50% of them, usually end up wasting their lives. Many of them become victims of what we call slavery. It's just modern day slavery, this smuggling of migrants. You see them being sold just like people sell cattle at Kara markets. You see many of them end up becoming victims of organ harvesting. They lose their organs. It's not just that they are used for prostitution or criminality. They actually have their organs harvested. There is a lot of technology usually involved in being sure of who is traveling. We have received support from the federal government. They have supplied a lot of equipment from our international partners, such as the IOM. They give us Midas equipment and so on and so forth. So we can actually be sure of who you are, where you are traveling. We have your records, which we can share with sister security agencies, and we constantly train and build the capacity of our officers. And then more importantly, we are using this means to also reach out to the public, that where they see things that are not right with respect to people who want to travel in an illegal manner, they should please be quick to let us know. They say there's no art to read the heart construction on the face. Now, once a person presents evidence of valid travel in accordance with the provisions of the law, a valid passport, a valid visa, means of sustenance at onward destination, you have to give that person the benefit of that, even where you have your reservations. So it's not in all cases that you can say, I suspect you, and then I will not allow you to go, because that person could just take you to court for depriving him or her the opportunity of a legitimate travel. You see, it is an international phenomenon and international scourge. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's just that Nigeria, sadly, we are a destination, a transit, and a receiving country at the same time. So But the federal government has taken a lot of bold steps through the establishment of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, the review of the Immigration Act 2015, to incorporate sections to deal with smuggling of migrants, because the two of them are different. So the government is actually taking steps to reduce the scourge. It cannot stop overnight. There's a need for a lot of education, that in search of greener pastures, you have to be careful. If it's not done legitimately, you can easily fall victim and lose your life. We all have different roles, but the same objective. Therefore, we work in collaboration with the NAPTIP, with the police, with other sister security agencies, and there is a very robust collaboration and synergy, and I can assure you that it's actually getting better.
The airline operators of Nigeria has warned the traveling public of impending disruptions in scheduled flight operations due to the scarcity of aviation fuel, otherwise called Jet A1, which has reared its ugly head again in the past few days. In a statement signed by Professor Obiora Okonkwo, who is the spokesman of AON, the statement reads that the scarcity will no doubt force airlines to reschedule flights, leading to late operations and/or cancellations. It added that the unintended development is a pain for airline operators and a stain on the industry, especially at this time of mass movement of people for the Christmas and New Year festivities. The airline operators say they remain committed to doing all that is necessary to ensure seamless services and safe air travels in the country. Still on the mass movement of people for the Christmas and New Year festivities, there are also complaints about infrastructure, especially at the Abuja airports.
Safety is assured, that I can tell you. So, but the other issues of having a seamless operation, then it's out of our hands. We've written to the ministry, we've written to FAN on the issue of the Abuja check-in terminal. It's crazy out there. 9 or 10 airlines in a very small space is not encouraging. The expansion, the international terminal, the old international terminal is lying fallow. Airlines, some of us should be made to go there so that we have enough counters for check-in. The situation.
And the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is also asking passengers to be patient, especially in the face of weather conditions.
To exercise a little bit of patience at this time of the year, because this is the season of the dust haze. Some people call it the devil's dust or Hamatan. Pretty much, there's nothing to worry about. All our airports have procedures that allows the pilot to land even without the ILS, which we call the PBN approach. All the airports have been designed. They have the processes in place. All the calibration equipment are good to go. We have calibrated all our ILSs. So there's really nothing to worry about. Every airport has their visibility requirements. So if an airport is below a certain minimal, the aircraft will not be able to land.
Still on weather issues, but on the foreign scene, some 36 people were injured and 11 of them seriously when a Hawaiian Airlines flight to Honolulu was hit by severe turbulence. Emergency responders treated 36 patients and 11 of them were taken to hospital in serious conditions. Another 9 patients were in stable condition with injuries ranging from serious head injuries, lacerations, bruising, and loss of consciousness. Hawaiian Airlines Chief Operating Officer John Snook praised the aircraft's crew, 3 of whom were injured in the incident. He added that there is a lot of unstable air in the flight path currently and that the airline is staying on top of the weather forecast.
This morning, Flight 35 from Phoenix to Honolulu encountered severe air turbulence shortly before descent into Honolulu. We know that there were injuries on board, 20 injuries that we've recorded, 13 of which were serious enough to warrant transportation to local hospitals via ambulance. I want to say I'm very grateful for the support of the emergency services, Jim and his team, the DOT, the police and fire department, who were on site as soon as the aircraft arrived and provided fabulous care for those that were injured. Also want to thank our crew members, 3 of whom were injured during the flight and transported to hospital. And despite that, our crew did a terrific job managing what was a very difficult situation. So we're very grateful for that. Also grateful that it seems at this moment that none of those guests that were transported to hospital are in critical condition. We're very familiar with the current weather forecast. There's a lot of unstable air in the area. The seatbelt siren was on at the time that the incident occurred. We're obviously in a situation in the islands right now where we're dealing with a lot of unstable air and weather conditions that are certainly difficult to deal with if you're an airline.
The Airbus A330 aircraft, which was carrying 278 passengers and 10 crew members, encountered severe turbulence as it approached the islands. Ethiopian Airlines expects its passenger business to recover to pre-pandemic levels in its financial year ending in June 2023. The Chief Executive Officer of the airlines, Mesfin Bekele, says Africa's biggest carrier will ferry 12.7 million passengers during the year, up from 8.6 million passengers in the previous financial year and 12.1 million before the pandemic struck. Bekele attributed the forecast to lifting of restrictions on movement around the world, the carrier's own expansion in terms of new planes and destinations, and a peace deal signed last month to end a 2-year conflict north of the country. Ethiopian also fared much better than other African carriers during the pandemic, thanks to its cargo business that was able to compensate for a steep drop in passenger traffic.
In the fiscal year that ended in June 2022, we carried 8.6 million passengers, but pre-COVID in 2019, we carried 12.1 million passengers. So we have not reached where we were pre-COVID in terms of passenger, but in terms of cargo, in fact, we doubled the amount of cargo we carried during the last fiscal year compared to what we carried in 2019. Are expanding our network. We have added new destinations and we will be adding some more destinations during the year. We are increasing frequencies to some destinations. All these things combined together will help us to enhance our level of operation and at the same time increase the number of passengers we carry and cargo we transport. But at the same time, as countries more open up, relax the restrictions, it will allow the passenger traffic to grow. That will enable us to increase overall our operation and our revenue.
It's been 9 long years since you waited for a chance to go into space, and now Nico Apunaman is set. And if all goes according to plan, that wait will end on October the 3rd, when a Native American astronaut will lead NASA's Crew 5 mission to the International Space Station. While John Harrington was the first Native American astronaut to make it to the space in 2002, Man will be the first woman to break that barrier.
To be honest, I think I feel very proud. It's important that we celebrate our diversity and really communicate that specifically to the younger generation. Because I know there's kids out there that live, perhaps in a community where there are barriers. And I want them to know that these barriers are being broken down or can be broken down. And so hopefully they feel inspired or empowered to pursue their dreams and work towards breaking down some of those barriers. In the same breath, operationally here at NASA, it's really great to be able to say it really doesn't matter, right? Our astronauts are trained across the board and qualified for missions. And so we're really getting to a point in our kind of evolution as a society that operationally we don't highlight or distinguish based on gender or race or religion. We distinguish based on your ability to execute the job. I think that's also great to highlight as part of how far we've come.
Man is a member of the Welaki of the Round Valley Indian tribes in Northern California, says that our upcoming mission has sparked excitement in our community.
0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Spot and Doug.
I still live in Northern California area where the Round Valley tribes are located. And there's been, what's really neat is a lot of interest from these news outlets and from these sources from the Native American outlets. And that's really, I think, an audience that we don't get an opportunity to reach out to very often. And so I think this is just a good opportunity to highlight everything that we're doing in space and maybe, spread that word to a community that normally wouldn't be in the forefront of their minds.
With a journey into space just weeks away, Man, a Marine colonel with a master's in mechanical engineering, was recruited into NASA in 2013 and finished candidate training 2 years later. As a former fighter pilot who flew combat missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, she seems well suited to the stress and unpredictability of a manned space mission. Man, NASA astronaut Josh Casada, Japan's Koichi Wakata, and Russian cosmonaut Anna Kikina are set to launch from Florida's Kennedy Space Center aboard the Dragon spacecraft and swap out Crew 4 from ISS. NASA's gigantic space launch system, atop which will be for now a manned Orion crew capsule, is poised to take a key step toward returning humans to the moon after a half-century hiatus.
Just make sure that you keep the track on your left side.
This is where our flight lands on this edition. From the Aviation This Week team in Channels Television, it's compliments of the season. See you next time. I'm Bukola Jo Okitumbi.